is the Next Level Loan Officers podcast. To learn more about Next Level Loan Officers, go to becomnl.com.
Hey, this is Frazier with Lead Pops and Next Level, and I'm proud to present this episode of the Next Level Loan Officers podcast. Lead Pops is the industry's only future-proof growth solution. You can check us out at leadpops.com.
All right. Well, welcome back. We have another episode here of the Next Level Loan Officers podcast. My name is Kellen Vaughn. I'm hosting you today. Thanks for tuning in, loan officers that are out there. Listen, we've got a special guest joining us today, long-time Next Level member. We put you in the OG category for sure. But a guy coming out of Golden, Colorado with New Capital Finance Broker Shop, Thomas Frank. Thomas, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Kellen. I'm excited to be on.
Well, listen, we're honored to have you on here, and you and I were, we were just chatting, off the line here a minute ago, just kind of talking about, life in the mortgage business, and both of us have been around mortgages for a minute or two, and have seen a few markets come and go. But man, I thought we'd take a little time on this podcast. I know there's a lot of loan officers out there listening to us, and I know a lot of them are newer to the market, maybe some veterans out there as well. But I think, man, one of the things we probably don't talk about a lot or enough is sometimes just the reality of our business. I think a lot of times we read things, we read the Scotsman's Guide ranking of mortgage loan officers, and we listen to other podcasts, and we see awards and all these different things. And there's a lot of guys and gals out there that are crushing it, that make it look really easy. And I think sometimes that's discouraging to people who are, boots on the ground and in the trenches and working every day. And I listen, you and I were just commenting about, man, what a tough market it is right now, right? Like, it's a really challenging place to be. So, what are your thoughts on kind of just, where we're at? And you were telling me, man, I'm working really hard to stay positive and all that. So what are some of the kind of mindset things that you're thinking through now as we kind of navigate this current economy?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, mindset's huge in this market right now, staying positive, and then really mapping out, your day and knowing your plan of attack, which being with Next Level really helps me with that. They give me my ATMs to focus on actions that matter and really hammering those down. And so, yes, staying positive, but you have to take action as well, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. It's kind of like manifestation. It's like you can think of something, and you have to do the work and take the actions to get the results that you want. So,
yeah, you're exactly right. And you and I were just chatting, and we were both, just in full transparency, just making the comment like, man, this is a really tough market. I mean, I know you mentioned you've had several of your loan officers that have, I think, left the business maybe altogether. I know we've got friends that have done that, members of Next Level that have done that. And we were just sitting here going, man, we're just surviving right now. We all know that life is going to get good again. The question is just how quickly is that going to come? And I feel like, we've had the jobs report here at the beginning of February that came out hotter than expected. Well, that didn't do us any favors on rates. We had a PPI that came out this week, and that was a little bit higher than expected. So that doesn't help rates. And, we're recording this here the day after Valentine's Day. And since February 2nd, we're up 200 basis points on the mortgage market. And that's a challenge in an already high rate environment. And that, let's just talk about what that means. Like, what's the reality of that situation? And you nailed it. The reality is borrowers they can't afford a lot of properties.
And that's exactly what I'm seeing, Kellen, is like, my borrowers are reaching back out to me, and they're like, I send off a bunch of emails at the beginning of the week seeing, how it went shopping wise, if I can be of any assistance this week, things like that. And I got some responses back, and they're like, how are rates doing? And we've been trending up for the last 2 weeks pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so I had to break that reality to them. And then they're asking me to, run some payments and see how affordability looks. And it's really killing affordability every time we start reaching those mid sixes, close to the sevens. It really, and especially in my market in Colorado, I mean, our average loan amount was like 400 last year.
Yep.
Up from the year before considerably. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're looking at just like a $650,000 house, it's kind of average in my area. Nobody wants to pay $5,000 a month for that, or 52 or whatever the case may be. It's just, It's hard to stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. And so, you mentioned something earlier, and I want to circle back to this because I think it's really important. In these markets like this, and I mentioned earlier, I was like, listen, we may lose, I don't know if it'll be 50%, but it's going to be a good chunk of the loan officers that are out there. Right. So we're in a time when you really have to go back to some basics. We got to go back to some blocking and tackling, and those of us that have been in the business for a while, it's like, man, we got to go back to doing some things that we don't like to do. Right. Or that we did in the early days. And now we're back to doing them again. So talk to the loan officers that are listening here. Just, man, some of the tactical things that you're doing to just keep moving forward. I know you mentioned like, hey, man, every Monday morning I'm reaching out, I'm sending a text message, I'm calling these borrowers. What else do you do during the week that just is stuff that maybe you didn't have to do before, but you're just back to doing it now?
Sure. I'm leaning, like, most of my efforts and most of my support is coming from my past database. So database mining, keeping in touch with them, maybe not even asking them for anything. Because like you said, the market is going to turn around. So people that can afford right now, I think that it's smart if they can get in, if the rates do turn around. And this, I kind of set that expectation with them, like, hey, if they don't, be prepared to pay this forever. But if the market turns around, you can, get a lower payment, refinance, and take advantage of that. So leaning on my database a lot. Just I have asked them for some referrals, but I'm doing a lot of email marketing. And I've been utilizing, honestly, ChatGPT to help me with more email marketing strategies. I'm like, help me create some content around reverse mortgages, help me create content for investors. And then I literally would just spend an hour or two just putting emails together and then just blasting it up to my database. And you'd be surprised like how many people respond to that stuff. I've made a couple other pivots in my business as well. We don't have to go too deep in this, but I've kind of created an ecosystem with our services and our offerings. So I've recently gotten my life and health license. And so I've created a lot of content around those and shoot that out to my clients as well. And then I'm working on a series 6 and 65 as well. So just it's kind of all, like I said, it's just kind of like an ecosystem.
Yeah, multiple streams of income, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, and that's smart, right? And that's a great point that, sometimes we have to lean on some of those other things. We have to pull some of those other levers in times like this to kind of, get us through and make it work. I think that's really important. I think, you hit on something else too, and you're a broker, right? So just in disclosure there, but you hit on something too, which we were kind of chatting about in terms of, reverse mortgages and just some other kind of maybe non-traditional, non-QM type products, right? I know one of the things that we've been talking to our real estate agents or our referral partners about a lot is, bank statement loans, DSCR loans, things like that, which, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, we weren't having these conversations because those customers weren't getting houses. And now, I think a lot of the cream of the crop bought, a couple of years ago, and we've been dealing with a lot of paper borrowers for a while. And now we're kind of having to, service a whole nother, echelon of borrowers. So are you finding that those conversations are helpful as well as you're educating referral partners on different products and different things that might be out there?
Absolutely. That's something I'm doing with I have a small team of loan officers, and then something I do also with my real estate agents. I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I'm having all of them pick a niche and niche out hard in it.
Yeah.
Divorces, self-employed, high net worth, whatever you want to go after, reverse mortgages, just become the expert in that and go after those. That's just, there's so much business out there to be had, and nobody's really going after it. Construction loans, I mean, the list goes on and on. But then I do the same thing with my real estate agents. I'm like, here's what we're doing. We're niching out really hard. And, I've picked a couple myself. I've kind of picked reverse mortgages and divorces and a couple other things. And yeah, just really doubling down hard and educating. We have time to do, certifications and things like that. So I'm really doubling down on all of that stuff, investing in myself, investing in my team, and then having everyone, like I said, kind of pick niches. And
yeah, well, that's a great point. You say we got the time now, which is true, right? I mean, we have the time to kind of dig through these files a little harder than we did before. And we were just down speaking at a conference in Austin, Texas. And this was the topic was, listen, you're not going to win in this market with a shotgun approach, trying to be all things to all people. Doesn't mean you can't do those deals, but to your point, and I love that, man, like be a subject matter expert on a particular product, right? And I always use this example. For a long time, nobody in my area wanted to do manufactured homes for whatever reason. So people kept saying, hey, will you guys do them? And I was like, sure. Like I knew our company did them. Our team really hadn't done a bunch. And this was years ago. And so I sent our team through like a little training, like, hey, let's do these. If nobody else wants to do them, we'll do them. Right. And so we went through the training. We got kind of brought up to speed on how to do them and do them efficiently. And so that was a big marketing deal for us for a long time, was manufactured homes. I still, Ken and Shane and Sean still give me a hard time about it. But that was a big deal for us. And I'll tell you, man, what it did. And so for those of you that are listening and you're like, feeling like you're a shotgun, not dialed in, what it did when we did that was it gave us a really laser focus, right? So I think a lot of times loan officers almost get some paralysis when it comes to like, hey, what should I be doing today? Because there's so many things that you could be doing. There are so many people that you could be talking to. But when, to your point, when you take that focus and you really kind of focus on one niche in the market, right? And let's call it manufactured homes. And you go, this is my focus, right? This is the only thing I'm concentrating on. You can become almost a celebrity expert in that area. You can really start to drive some business and do some things that are really impressive. And of course, it'll all lead to other business as well, right? So it's not like that's the only thing. Like you're talking about reverses or divorces. Well, it doesn't mean those people don't also need conventional loans and FHA loans and VA loans as well. And so it's just interesting. I think, that's a common theme that we're hearing as we talk to more and more people is, as this market becomes a little tougher, my focus is becoming narrow, right? I'm really trying to become an expert.
And that just goes to show how much opportunity is still out there. Yeah. Like if you focus on manufactured homes, because that's what we're talking about, not everybody lives in those. Like you said, you're going to get other business elsewhere. And that was like a huge turning point in my business. And anybody that's listening that hasn't started to do this yet, I guess this is the number one thing I tell everyone is database management and starting to make sure that which real estate agents were on each side, not just the agent that helped your client, but also on the sell side, get all of those people's names, phone numbers, emails, and then your clients, and start to build your database. Because the second I started doing that was about 4 years ago. That was when I actually started to really do some production and see some consistency in in my business. And that's a huge turning point for me.
Yeah, that's a great point too, man. Yeah, I think, it's all, it's all amazing how much business is out there when we really start to look for it. And I think the challenge with a lot of LOs too, and I'd love your opinion on this too, Thomas, is like, these markets get tough and times get a little hard and it can be discouraging, right? We've all been there. Like, if we're open and honest, like sometimes, I mean, when that PPI report came out yesterday, the day before, I was like, oh man, like, come on, man. Like, we need a break. We need a 50 basis point improvement in the market, right? Like, and I'm not saying rates are everything, but it drives a lot. And I think we get discouraged, and loan officers tend to kind of bury their head in the sand and almost recluse a little bit in terms of kind of just as a self-preservation. And really, it's the time that we should be doubling down. It's the time that we should be doing ATMs, actions that matter, more than ever. We should be going back to those basics. I'll give you another example, and I'd love your comment on this. How long have we been talking about private agent Facebook groups inside of Next Level? Do you know?
For conception?
Years, right? I mean, years. So we went down to this event in Austin this week, and there was a room of about 95 loan officers. And in that room, I asked how many of them had set up a private Facebook group for their real estate agents. 4 people out of 95 raised their hand. All 4 of the people were Next Level loan officer members that were in the audience. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's things out there that we're just not doing that we could be doing. There's blocking and tackling. There's fundamentals that loan officers aren't doing that they should be doing, not burying their head in the sand, not hoping it's just going to go away, but doubling down and going out there and doing what it takes. So for you, like, how do you not only impress that upon your loan officers, but mentally just get up every day kind of ready to put your war paint on and go to work?
Well, everyone always talks about their why, which I think is an obvious thing. That makes it easy, right? But for me, like, there's a little bit more than that. So what really keeps me going at the end of the day is like the end result of what we're doing for the client, especially the first-time home buyers and stuff, or the people that go through, the credit repair or income hurdles, whatever the case may be. So those are what really keeps me going. And then you look at it from even a bigger picture and how they're building, financial wealth for their generation, for generations to come. Yeah. Especially if you start helping people with multiple properties or whatever, or even just, the regular blue collar family that gets into their first single family home and maybe they have to live there forever, whatever. They're still building so much equity in this appreciating asset. And that at the end of the day, like, helps me more than even like my family and my daughter and things like that. Cause like, it's just, you do this for long enough and you will get kind of burned out. I've been in since 2005. I went out for a year or two here and there, but pretty much in the mortgage industry the entire time since 2005. And I still don't feel like I'm really burned out. Like, I still have like this like fire that's burning under me. And like, I still feel like passionate about it. And you can probably hear it in my voice right now. It's because it's true and it's real. And it like really just helps me, on my day-to-day everything, like especially getting through this market. I've been through some up and down markets, 2017, 2019, there was kind of some turbulence going on.
Sure.
And then before that, of course, there was, so we've seen it all. And, to just keep your head on straight and to stay focused and to stay like that motivated can be tough. And so that's what helps me. And like I said, I'm still not burnt out from it. So I don't know. It just, that's what I'm going to keep doing, is just trying to help these families get into homes and build generational wealth.
And that's a great point, man. And it's, that's often overlooked, I think, for a lot of loan officers. And I think you've got, a lot of loan officers that, maybe work in a call center or something, and they don't necessarily have that experience. They don't have that moment where they meet the family or they live in the same community as the family, right? I mean, you're in Golden, Colorado. My guess is you've done a handful of loans in Golden, Colorado, right? Like that's the community that you live in, that you invest in, that you have your business in. And same for me as well. And I run into these people, right? I run into them in town. I run into them at the grocery store. And so there is some pride and accomplishment that comes from, doing good to people, right? And putting them in a better place than they were before. And they come back and say, man, thank you so much. Like what you were able to do, we were able to do X, Y, and Z. We were able to send a child to college. We were able to sell this first home we bought and buy our next home and do this and do that. And you're right, man. It's a great point, because it's not always about us. And I think when it's not about us, it becomes sometimes even a bigger driver than if it was our own personal why, right? There's a lot of other people in our world that are counting on us to be here and to, help them find their next home. So I love that. Well, listen, man, I hope if you're a loan officer and you're listening to this, like this was kind of, Thomas and I were talking before. We're like, man, let's just kind of get real for a minute, right? Like, let's just kind of break it down and get real and just talk about what's happening out there. I know we talk a lot of rah, and this is the kind of stuff we should be doing. And we believe that, and you should be doing that. But sometimes you just have to take a moment and have a real conversation, a real discussion. And hopefully if you're a loan officer, you're listening to this, you're driving in your car to the office, you're like, man, I needed this today. Like I was not feeling great. And, but get a little pep in your step, put a smile on your face. Listen, from between myself and Thomas, we've got a lot of years in the mortgage business. I can tell you, we've been here before, and we always came out okay on the other side. And we were joking too. I said, I'm just waiting for this market to improve so I can make up for all the money that I lost right now by our slower days. So think about it that way. It's not no income, it's deferred income. So we just need that market to change a little bit so that we can go collect, the income that we need to for this time period. So, dude, Thomas, thank you so much. Listen, if you guys are in Colorado or anywhere else and need a great guy to connect with, reach out to Thomas over at New Capital Finance up in Golden. Thomas, thank you for being a great member of Next Level. We always appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me.
And if you want to get to know more about Next Level, check us out over at becomenl.com. Again, becomenl.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next Level Loan Officers podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.